change in a different way too
Right.
for the Buffalo Bills. Good Lord, it was unexpected. It was stunning, and credit to them for doing it like a week early, because it gives all the guys that they cut yesterday more of a chance to go out and find another spot.
Yeah.
In competition with the guys who are free agents, who are officially available to be pursued on Monday at noon Eastern, by having this bloodletting. $41 million they started over the cap on Wednesday, and they slashed and they burned, and bye-bye to Jordan Poyer, starting safety, center Mitch Morse, who they signed away from the Chiefs a few years ago. Nyheim Hines, that one was expected after he had that off-field, not that it was his fault, that he had one of those things. What's that thing called? The thing Kenny Powers rides, the water jet ski. Jet ski.
That's right. That's right. Sorry.
Deontay Hardy's gone. Sirron Neal's gone. $25.955 million in cap space from those moves. They will eventually release Tre'Davious White with a post-June 1 designation to put the cap hit between 2 years, 24 and 25. So they ended up clearing $37 million in cap space with their roster moves yesterday. They still need to do more.
Yeah.
But $37 million off the books just like that. One fell swoop, off we go. And the Bills reconfiguring the roster by necessity to get ready for 2024.
Big moves, like you said. Big moves. Gotten Von Miller to renegotiate his contract, right? I believe that saved them a little bit north of $8 million.
8.65. And it kind of felt like he really did him a favor, because he has guaranteed money.
I know.
A lot of guaranteed money.
It definitely sounds like he did him a favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically said, okay, whatever. I'll help the team out. He knows, hey, last year was kind of a get back, get right, healthy year, but he certainly wasn't himself. All right, so he decided to help the football team out, and he didn't have to. That is cool of him. But I think it does speak to the culture up there in Buffalo, right? Players like it up there. Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, they've created something there where I think a day like yesterday is especially hard for them. Right? Those are their kind of guys. They have their kind of guys as far as how they look. They're going to fit what we do up here in Buffalo, how we coach, how we play. And they're a big part of the culture. I mean, especially Jordan Poyer. Come on. I mean, he's like almost an extension of the defensive coaching staff. He's idolized up there. He's one of the greatest leaders on their team, right? So Mitch Morse has been a great center for them over the years. The rest of these guys have been good complementary players. But at the end of the day, right, I mean, you're sitting here and I'm getting ready for free agency and the podcast and all that stuff, and you're going, well, Buffalo's got to make major moves here. I mean, they got to do something. Right? They got to do something to, not only get underneath the cap, but you'd like them to get underneath in the area too where maybe they could add a player or two like we've talked about in free agency that, can be a little bit more of a difference maker or that difference maker that we feel they lack at times in some of the big moments. And I think this is the first time I've looked at it and gone, ooh, they're serious about their business. I know they had to do this, but I think they finally have realized, wait, the shelf life of this team that we've had in Buffalo the last few years that went to an AFC championship game, lost a shootout to Mahomes in the divisional round, the Bengals and Joe Burrow, and then, of course, last year, I think they realized it's over. It's time to move on. These guys have kind of ran the test of time here, and we need some new blood and some new guys in here and new energy and try to restart this engine again and get back into that Super Bowl window.
Well, and on Von Miller, I think the key is going to be knowing and I just made a note to find out what the incentives are this year for him, because he had $17.5 million fully guaranteed for this year. Because remember, there was that incident where there was some sort of allegation made against him during the season.
Yep,
one of the first
Texas.
things that we put together was, if something happens here, his guaranteed salary of $17.5 million for next year becomes unguaranteed, and they could just move on and clear up $17.5 million just like that. So he drops it to $8.855 million by way of salary. That creates $8.645 million in cap space. With incentives, he can make as much as 20. But see, the way that you do it, there are certain types of incentives that count against this year's caps, and then there are certain types of incentives that count against next year. And my guess is, based upon what's happened here, they've created, it's called likely to be earned versus not likely to be earned. And it doesn't take much. If you had a down year, it doesn't take much to get to not likely to be earned, because you just have to do a little bit better than what you did last year in whatever category they pick. And it could be that he doesn't have to do all that much this year to unlock as much money to get back to where he was. Then it just becomes a cap device where we took money from this year and moved it to next year.
Yeah.
So we don't know how much of a true haircut Von Miller took by way of dropping $17.5 million down to $8.855. We'll find out. But it's possible that they were just moving money around, and he's taking the chance that he's not going to do a little bit more than he did last year. And I think part of it, too, they could have cut him and he walks away with $17.5 million, but he don't have a team.
You're exactly right.
I'm sure somebody would have given him a job somewhere for the minimum.
Yeah.
He still makes his $17.5.
Right.
But if he wants to stay in Buffalo, if he wants to see this thing through, you don't get to play for the Buffalo Bills.
No.
If you want to play for the Bills, you got to redo this deal. And maybe at this point, he's made plenty of money over the years. He decides, I'll take the chance to make less this year because I want to stay here.
Yeah. I think there's probably some of that on play there. There's two sides that I look at it and go, one, Von Miller. Right? Yeah, I don't think he was going to find anything near that, right, with the current status of his body and the unknown. And, okay, is he still the same guy, right? So I think he probably looked at it and went, wait, I like it here in Buffalo, right? We got Josh Allen. We still are a damn good football team. Yeah, we need a few players, certainly. I've made money. I'm at the end of my career, and I'm not going to find a paycheck out there right now at this point in my career, anything like this, right? And I think the other side of that, too, is, hey, I think a lot of guys in Von Miller's, case, scenario, whatever, might have been cut. But because he's Von Miller, because he treats people the right way, because he's a good leader in the locker room, right, I think he gets the benefit of the doubt there. I do, and I don't say that in a bad way at all. Like, I think that's what's amazing about Von Miller. He is special type of leader in the locker room and worker and doing all that. And I think the other encouraging side of it is that Buffalo does want to keep him. They obviously think he can turn the corner here and get closer to what he used to be before this ACL injury. I mean, this ACL injury, let's be serious. It derailed him big time. I mean, he was playing really good football in 2022. And, harassing the quarterback, making big plays at the end of the game like we talked about that somebody needed to do up there in Buffalo. Made pressure on Mahomes in the regular season game to end the game on a 4th down, right? But then that Thanksgiving Day game, Detroit Lions, somebody falls on that leg. He's never been the same. And, he's trying to just kind of survive and buy himself some time here to get back to 100%.
Last year, he appeared in 12 games with 0 starts and had 0.0 sacks.
Yeah.
And by way of example,
yeah,
he could unlock a massive payment with 1 sack. With 1 sack. And it would be treated as a not likely to be earned incentive because it's an improvement over what he did last year. It doesn't go against this year's cap.
That's a good example,
next year's cap. That's one way that you can get a lot of that money back. So we'll find out what the incentives are, but there's a chance he didn't really give up that much, but we'll see. We'll see. And, from the Bills' standpoint too, Chris, beyond cutting a guy that has $17.5 million fully guaranteed that he walks away with, they're the ones that
gave him a big contract.
They're the ones that went all in. Like, you don't really want to make it too conspicuous that we're admitting this was a mistake. Oh, and we're giving him a $17.5 million parting gift.
Yeah, I agree with that there too. You're right. There's a little bit of that. That's a little bit of the political nature of the business and saving face or whatever else that way. But it worked out. Either way, worked out for both sides. And Buffalo obviously, has still some more work to do here. It'd be interesting to see what happens, right? But Tre'Davious White, hey, that's a guy was all pro-ish, Pro Bowl, right? Early on in his career, got paid, hurt his ACL, never been the same, never. Right. And I wondered, I was like, oh, they drafted him. He's a part of their culture. Are they going to try to put a Band-Aid on this and kind of make it work because he's one of the guys, a little bit like we were talking about, just the political nature of the sport. But I give them credit for going, wait, I just think it's over. It's not worth the price tag anymore. He's no longer even in the conversation of the top cornerbacks in football. And, those are the tough decisions that Brandon Beane and company had to make, and I give him credit for that.
Well, one of the ways they can create some cap space, and one of the reasons why they were so far over, Chris.
Yeah.
Last year,
right.
Josh Allen,
right.
cap number, $18.6 million. This year, next Wednesday at 4 o'clock
big
Eastern,
year.
Cap number, $47 million. There's almost $30 million right there. You wonder how they end up so far over the cap. And now I know why Brandon Beane last week was like, well, that really saves us to go to 255. Yeah, it does. You still have to let all these guys go. It's still a cap massacre in Buffalo, even with the cap at 255.
Right.
But
that's why he was so thrilled to hear you say maybe Josh Allen should, ask for a new contract or something.
Well, but you know what? It
might be better, you're saying?
Listen.
Yeah.
No, but now they may have the ability, if they want, to take his $23.5 million salary for this year, reduce it to the minimum, and convert the balance to a guaranteed payment. More and more contracts now have that in there as an automatic right. I remember a day 20, 25 years ago where, they call it the simple restructuring, where they would approach a player and say, can we take your salary, reduce it to the minimum, give you the rest of it now.
Right, a signing bonus kind of thing.
And sometimes they'd say no.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd say no. And it's like, why am I doing you a favor? You want me to do you a favor? You do me a favor. No. You give me all the money now? No. So sometimes they would say no. The contracts have this where you just snap your fingers. So maybe they have that. Now, it kicks the can. And next year, Chris, his cap number is 56, and the year after that is 52.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about kicking it too much. But this is what happens when you sign a quarterback to a massive contract. They
kick the can down the road a little.
Make it so that in the early years it's low. Here's the numbers.
Right.
$10 million the first year, $16 million the second year, $18 million the third year. That's why it goes to 47, 56, and 52. They structured it so the cap charges are big later. And now they got 47, and they got to figure out what to do with it. What do you do? One way to lower the cap number is to sign him to a new deal and give him a raise.
That's where I thought you were going to go.
Problem is,
right.
But here's the reality.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of play with the salary cap, and it's, at times it doesn't feel like real money. But the reality is that every dollar you pay a guy eventually is going to hit the cap. Every dollar that goes into that guy's account will count against the cap at some point. That's why we see Tom Brady, when he finally leaves the Bucs, $35 million left behind. That was money he was paid that they found a way to keep from hitting the cap in 2020, 2021, or 2022. They pushed it to 23. When Drew Brees left the Saints, big cap charge. Right. Remember, he retired officially on June 1, so it was spread over 2 years.
Right.
He did him a favor.
Right.
So there's always that chunk of cap money that you have to account for at some point, and it's not just this magical thing that pops up out of the blue. It represents every dollar you paid the guy. And people ask me, like, with the Saints, why do they do this? Why do they do this? Well, if the cap keeps going up and up and up, it's in your interest to push it to future years because it hurts less in future years.
Right.
A dollar means less next year than it means this year. So let's push it to next year. And the year after, it means even less. As long as the cap keeps going up, it means less and less and less if you take those cap charges in future years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the beauty of it. Look at how you're saying right now. You say things like, "Oh, it's $47 million," and I'm sitting there going, "That's not bad for Josh Allen." That's not a bad price tag. You're talking about the second best player in football, really, behind Patrick Mahomes. Okay, yeah, I'll take that price for that, right? So that's you're exactly right. That is the purpose there. But they still got some work to do here, and I am going to be interested to see what's going to be the next move because I'd think they want to get underneath the cap comfortably, like we talked about, to find some ways to finagle a few more players on the roster. And, of course, they got to save money for the guys they're going to draft high up in the draft, and that's going to count against the cap. So I still think we might hear about a few more moves in Buffalo over the next few days here.
And, it is strange what's happened since 2011. Before 2011, you heard that kind of stuff a lot more. It's like teams
what?
had a harder time complying with the salary
Oh,
cap.
yeah,
like,
yeah, right.
Oh,
right.
we need to clear enough space to sign our draft picks.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like every year most of the league was trying to thread the needle, and you would hear about teams that were in cap purgatory where this year they just got to cut everybody. They can't go out and sign anybody because they're up against the cap. At some point that changed, and I think it was with the 2011 CBA. I think what happened was you revolutionized the way that rookies are paid.
Right.
Makes it a lot easier to manage your cap. You no longer have this burden when you have the first overall pick. You better get it right. You know why? Guy's getting a $60 million contract, which doesn't sound like much in today's NFL, but back in 2010, to guarantee that much on the way through the door was a big deal. So, you don't see a lot of teams who are like, oh, God, how are we going to field a team this year? Now, and that's what makes this thing from the Bills so rare. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, how did I not know this was coming? Because, the information's out there. I just didn't bother to check because you don't have many situations like this anymore. It used to be every year there were 4 or 5 teams that were screwed. Now it's an aberration to have a team that was up against it as the Bills were, to the point where it's not even on my radar screen anymore to say, gee, who's screwed this year under the cap? I mean, with the Saints always are, but they always find a way to wave a magic wand and fix it. But I frankly did not know the Bills were in that kind of shape. I did not know it.
Yeah, no, I know. I just became aware of it earlier this week where I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was to that extent they were over the cap. And there's some other ones, too, that are, kind of shocking as well. I mean, hey, the Broncos.
I'm looking at them now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Broncos, Saints, Dolphins, Chargers are the 4 biggies.
Right. They're the 4 biggies.
Broncos, Saints, Dolphins, Chargers. Ravens are in a little bit of a pickle.
Yep.
Cowboys are always kind of dancing on the line.
Right.
But there's only, looks like 8 teams that are in negative cap territory heading into next year's official league year that starts on Wednesday.
It's important to look at those things because you start to realize, the Dolphins are $15 million under over the salary cap. Well, I guess it's going to be hard to give Christian Wilkins a $17 million a year type of contract and have that guy on the books too. That's where you look at it and go, well, okay, connect the dots. Yeah, Christian Wilkins will not be back with the Dolphins more than likely because of those issues right there. But, some teams there in the NFL that are damn good that certainly got some fat to trim off the salary cap to make things work.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.